Well, I'll start off with a question, who doesn't like to save money or time? Time is money. So we're going to talk about that with Norton. I'm with Norton Healthcare, and they're almost 10 years in this role, about 3. So I'm pleased to share some of our story with you. This is like my 10th presentation and various topics related to Lean Six Sigma and ISO 1345. So we're going to talk a little bit this morning about how we shifted our PMs from an OEM schedule to what's called repairs needed. So why PM? Why even bother with it? It's kind of a chicken or the egg. That's an overused example, but we believe the PMs prevent downtime, right? That's why we do it. But does it really? And what happens if you can't get access to the equipment you're trying to do PM on? And that was our situation. So the problem was, after the COVID restrictions, I'm from Kentucky, and we were in lockdown like a lot of states where they lifted them, and census skyrocketed, right? So lots of patients, which is good, but we were denied access to beds. And since we're ISO 1345 certified, that created a past due. We looked at the stickers, and that created what's called a non-conformance or an NC. And once an NC is issued, you can either try to resolve it quickly, or sometimes it requires a little bit more follow-up with what's called a corrective preventive action or CAPA. And that's what we had to do. So we need to find a solution. And we're ISO 1345, for those that don't know, is anyone from a company that's ISO 1345 certified? This afternoon at 4, I'm giving a presentation on how you can get that started. Also the presentation and a class for Amy. This was a 6-week session, 6 sessions, which was really great to talk about this. So it's really all about understanding what the risks are, and we're going to do a risk assessment on the elements from our PMs. We changed it. So the solution was we used Lean Six Sigma tools. I'm a certified master black belt instructor, and I've been doing this for probably 30 years, first with GE and a bunch of other companies. And so we used this methodology to prove or disprove what was going to happen here. And so welcome. I'm pleased to make this presentation to you all today, and I hope to make it somewhat interactive. Hope to do that. And we're going to talk about what you're going to take back from today's session. First of all, we're changing our thoughts about non-conformances. It used to be one of those things when the Joint Commission would come through and they see a non-conformance and write you up. It's like everyone would kind of pucker up, right? And go, uh-oh, what's going to happen? But we see them now as opportunities for improvement. And you're going to take away some of the Lean Six Sigma approach to problem solving, and then talk about cost-benefit analysis from a risk perspective, and then use some statistical tools. And I know it's early in the morning, but trust me, we're going to go do this nice and easy, and use that as our basis for change. And then lastly, we're going to talk about FTE savings. So again, we want to save time and money, and we'll walk you through that. And I had a few bonus slides if we have time, and we'll have that available to you if you want to stick around for a little after that. So there's one extra slide. So problem solving. This was pre-1345 for us. This might look familiar to some of you. This is kind of what we would do. We're just fine. We repair PMs. You know, we're doing a great job with the hospital system at Norton. And now what we do, there's a problem, we identify as non-conformance, then it goes through a CAPA typically, and then we want to follow what's called DMAIA. It looks like a foreign language or something, but it actually stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, Control. That's the methodology of Lean Six Sigma. We test solutions. We want to make sure that before we lock these things in, that we haven't made it worse, right? We want to make sure that we've done that. And then if there's a CAPA that's been generated, we want to close it up formally. So we want to make sure that we show ourselves and sort of the auditors that we have a process that identifies it and follows through methodology and closes it out. So that's been pretty new to us for the last several years. Here's what DMAIA's all about. This was created by Dr. Michael J. Gary. He sold the system to GE back in the late 90s, and it's really kind of a scientific method when you think about it. It makes sense. First, you want to find a problem. How many people feel like when you jump to solutions? Does that ever happen to you? Yeah, all the time, right? And what's wrong with that?
You don't understand the problem.
You don't understand the problem.
You don't fall in love with the problem.
You don't. Yeah, that's a great comment. So we don't. Yeah, you don't fall in love. Yeah, when GE first launched Lean Six Sigma, they had 3,000 users in a conference room that said, "Stand up here, solve the problem." Of course, we all stood up. Remain standing if you solve the same problem over and over again. Of course, we look at each other, we're still standing. So the idea is that you want to measure the current state as opposed to just trying to jump a solution. Then you want to analyze what's driving that, and then work through brainstorming solutions. There's a lot of soft skills involved in Lean Six Sigma. And then you want to, more importantly, you don't just leave there. You want to make sure there's some control mechanisms in there. And by the way, I appreciate y'all taking notes because these will be available afterward. But and ask me questions about this. This has been a lifelong journey for me. Yes, sir.
All right, so really a question I have, when you issue a CAPA before that time, you have an opportunity to fix what is deficient. So
That's right.
do you guys, I'm just curious, if you try to fix the deficient PMs before you issue a CAPA? Because once the CAPA issue is a whole process that takes time and very intense, right?
Right. So the question was, how do you manage the CAPA process? So our CAPAs are set up so that you can, or a non-conformance, we have a form for that, and if it can be resolved with the customer, usually at the hospital, we can say, here's what we did to contain the problem. It's called a short-term solution, and then we'll ask, hey, was this a more systemic problem? And it's kind of a judgment. We don't know until we do a little bit, pull a small team together and say, hey, has this happened anywhere else? And usually it has, right? So you have an opportunity to address the problem in the short term. You want,
correct.
yeah, so corrective action can take multiple, and then if there's a long-term solution required, then you say, well, what was it? And have you proved that over the long haul it worked? So then you want to use data to support that. Yeah, so we don't want to say, well, we don't have a solution yet because we haven't gone through your demand. We said, no, there are certain things that we can do right now to contain the issue and go from that standpoint. So again, we'll state the problem again. This is the define phase, and what you want to really do is say the current process poses risks due to limited access to perform PM. That's a very succinct way to say it. And then the root cause in this particular case was the increased patient census made it difficult for us to access the beds, right? So that's the first step, is define the problem, not define the solution. Oftentimes we define the solution and we shoehorn it. You really want to say, here's what we know right now. And we don't know it all. This is just as, you said a snapshot at the very beginning. So at the current state, and on the upper right corner, we've got the 10-foot blocks about where we are in the process, kind of a roadmap. So right now we're in the measure phase, and we look at the OEM schedule for PM versus care, and I don't expect you to read that, you should have really good eyes. But what we want to do is say, we started with what they told us to do. So let's blow that up a little bit. And we created a current state process map where you deal with the frame, alarms, the mattress, the weight. Those are the critical things from the patient care perspective. And then, again, I don't expect you to read all those little bubbles there, but the idea is to map it in its current state, not some future state, but as it is, okay? And then all we're gonna do is let's take a look at the risk. So when you break down each of those elements, we want to talk about what is risk? What do you all think of risk when you hear that word?
Severity times probability.
You are on it. Severity times probability. Yeah. Have you seen this pitch before? So we're going to talk about that. Thanks, Lee. So we use 3 factors. The first is severity. If it happens, how bad is it? On a scale of 1 to 5. Then we multiply the ability to detect it. That's really important in healthcare because if you're dealing with the MRIs, you can't see or smell whatever. So there's risk there of not detect what's going on, right? So 1 to 5. And then lastly, we do the frequency. Okay. So I like that because when you multiply those together, you might have a really high score. So what's 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. That'd be the worst case scenario. But it's really a prioritization number because what ISO requires that we do is perform an RPN on all the processes that we deal with. So your RPN score for how you deal with supply chain, your RPN score for training, and so on. And oftentimes, if you have a severe problem, but it doesn't happen very often, and it's easy to detect, it has a relatively low score. So that's the good news about using the RPN as a risk, as opposed to saying, it's going to, all hell's going to break for this. It might, but there are things that you can do to prevent it. Okay. So has anyone used ChatGPT yet? Be honest. Yeah. Good experience. Yeah. No. You know what? I love it because, but you have to know what your answer you're looking for. If you don't know what you're talking about, you get lots of garbage. But I asked the ChatGPT to give me a list of high-risk things, high RPN tasks in everyday life that we all encounter. So you can kind of see it. We have food safety, contaminated food. You can have, well, the one in red there hit us pretty hard. So has anyone been the victim of a cyber attack? Yeah. It sucks. So in June, Norton Healthcare was nearly shut down because of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Again, what RPN, the way we use it means if it's bad, and it's hard to detect, and it happens all the time. So in the case of cyber attacks, it does. It's kind of the worst of all possibilities. So using that score here, the severity is a 5. And you can do this with the team. You can try to do this with yourself, but I think it's really good to get the mixed view of what the team says. So if I use what's called Fistify or 1-5, and I'll say, Fistify, what do you think about this? You will put your hands up different scores. So if you were a 1 and you were a 5, I would say, well, why did you say a 1 and why did you say 5? Because somewhere in that there's some real truth, right? And you want to use that technique to uncover that. So we multiply that time detection. It's very difficult to detect. These guys are really good, and we're working all the time perfecting their craft. And the frequency, unfortunately, is that it's a daily thing. It happens all the time. So when you multiply those together, you're going to get a really high RPM score. And for our system, if it's greater than 50, that's considered red. Okay, so that's kind of our cutoff point. Any questions about RPM, how you might use it? This is an everyday thing. I hope it didn't have everybody while they're on the trip, but we're going to kind of continue to build on that. Again, we're in the measure phase, so this is risky business, right? So again, I want to restate what happened. We had this increase in census, and part of our ISO 1345 is that we're measuring our performance relative to our customers. And so our PM percent completion tanked, right? Because you couldn't get to bed, so our numbers were really bad. And it also elevated some risk. We were kind of concerned about what were we exposing our patients and our caregivers to. So what's the risk of not doing the PMs? In the analyze phase, what we did is we took a look at all the major systems within the emergency care bed, and I won't go through really slowly. I'll just kind of highlight some of the things. So the first thing is a side rail latch, and you can identify, get your experienced team together and sort of brainstorm the kind of things that go wrong. So in this case, this would cause patient falls, maybe even entrapment. The side rails don't work correctly. So 1 to 5, what do you think the risk sort of would be? I want to see this in hand. We all 5. Yeah, you disagree? That's okay if you disagree. Yeah, if it happens, it's bad. Right? We talk a little bit about the caster braking systems. That can cause mobility issues, maybe patient fall, that moves and didn't. That's a problem. So what do you think? 2 to I hear 5. Okay, so there's some differences. So we kind of gave it arbitrarily a 4. Not the worst thing, but certainly not the best either. So, but again, this is all relevant. I'll show you how this works in a minute. Electrical components, nothing.
Mark, you have to sign a waiver, a CMS waiver, which will not meet with the condition.
No, we didn't. No, there's 1345 is voluntary. Even our CMS, we've not gone to DNP as our auditor for accreditation. No, we didn't do any kind of thing like that at all. No. Components. So we said that there's danger to patient caregivers. I think we said that's a pretty high severity. John, anyone disagree with that? Okay, we're going to keep rolling through this pretty fast. On electrical cords, you can get shocks, fires, possibly power loss, and reduce safety overall. We give that a 4. Okay, bad, but not the worst, but still kind of bad, right? The return to neutral control could cause patient discomfort, and we're measured on patient satisfaction, so that could be a problem, but it isn't life-threatening necessarily. So cables entanglement, give it a 4. I won't go through all the others there. I'm just going to go through this a little quickly. Lockout controls, maybe a 3. It could cause, inconvenience or discomfort. So maybe not life-threatening, but certainly a hassle on that one. The sleep surface, we did a study on our mattresses once, and we actually cut open the mattresses. Has anyone ever done that? Yeah, it's nasty, isn't it? Yeah, you don't want to. It's something you can't unsee. Yeah, that's one of those things. I remember they put that on slides, and they said, "Do not show this to anybody else." Yeah, because it was incredible. But severity-wise, it's maybe a 3. There could be some discomfort and some hygiene because that food gets inside the mattress and stuff like that, and uneven support, or possibly the patient's ulcer. So this is one of those ones that we might want to bump up a little bit because of its proximity to the patient.
You also have infection prevention issues, which I would pick 5.
Yes.
The open woods.
Correct.
A lot of loss.
Right. That was actually my first exposure to HTM. I didn't know that there was a group that did all that, and I worked with a group that dealt infection prevention. And she was kind of a pit bull, and she went nuts. And I met Carlos Ramirez, who's our director now. He was very nice to her and sort of methodical, and we'll take care of it. But she was not going to have it. She just said, "This is
Patients want to stay longer in the hospital, therefore,
right."
and be larger cost. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, good point. So yeah, there's the long-term effect of not addressing it. So yeah, this could be one of those ones that you might want to stay 5. And it's okay if there's a difference in opinion. I would probably err on the side of, worse. So thank you, Celine. On the head angle display, maybe a 3, some patient discomfort, not going to affect patient safety necessarily. But you want to make sure you cover all the bases on that one. And the main battery, yeah, it's probably going to be a severity of 4, maybe 5, because you're going to lose power and lose the backup power, maybe even some of the way it operates. All right, so all those look bad, right? Terrible. Severities of 3, 4s, and 5s. And some takeaways. So when we sat down and went, well, okay, those are bad, but if you look at the ability to detect, and I think Mr. Gresh said this yesterday, you used the word I really like. What was it? User testing or user maintenance. Yeah, I was talking to our vet tech before this presentation, and he said something like that, but user maintenance. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it means that every day it's doing exactly what we did. Yes.
So now you're looking at the mitigations?
Yes. Yeah. So if you take the RPM scores of the 4s and 5s times the ability to detect it, these are very easy to detect. The failure, you sort of know it because of that user testing. And the frequency, thankfully, is relatively low. And if you multiply those together, you're getting what I call them in the green zone. They're below 50. So nothing that's really going to, be a true problem for us because of those other factors. So that gives us the opportunity to look at options. Yes, sir.
Did you use any objective data measuring frequency or
No, this was just sort of a, hey, what do you think? And but this would be to your point. Yeah, and the frequency rates can be, if you look on the web on how to define it, it's industry specific. So for us, once a day would be high. For an airline fatality, it would be 1 in a million. So it's you sort of have to gauge it to your particular application.
But you didn't look into the also the rest?
We did not look. No, we just sort of did this is a relative. This is just to say, are we going into some high risk here, or can we feel better? But even though the severity is high, you want to take into account those other elements of risk, right? So that's great. I appreciate that. Okay, so that's kind of where we're in the analyze phase, and kind of restating. So in Lean Six Sigma, what you want to start with is a practice problem. I know I'm kind of restating over and over, but I want you to get comfortable with how to state it in very brief terms. So the barriers to access prevented the CE group from following an OEM schedule, right? So we want to convert that to a statistical question, or a quest. That's the root word of question, right? So to convert that to a statistical question, what we're going to do is say, okay, is there a statistically significant difference between an OEM PM schedule and a repair schedule? In other words, would the repair rate go up or down? What do you all think? Just kind of gauging taking some wagers here. You think that the rate went up or down, or stayed the same? Think it went up?
It went down.
It went down. I mean, think it stayed the same? No change, okay? This is great, thank you. So we're going to test that. We're going to see what the data tells us. And that's why the data comes with us. So we're in the analyze phase now. And I'm going to warn you, sometimes statistical analysis can cause confusion, nausea, headaches, diarrhea, numbness, fatigue. I know what you're thinking. Is this going to hurt? It's not going to hurt. We're going to do this very easily at 8 in the morning, so trust me on this. We're going to do something that's unfortunately very familiar to all of us. In 1 year, we had almost 500,000 people died that contracted COVID. And it looks like that graph there, that men have a higher rate of death than women in being there. Does anyone believe that? That's true? It's hard to tell, right? Has anyone ever seen this in C-suite presentation? We'll take a graph like this and make the scale so wacky that it looks like, oh my God, it's terrible. Well, I sort of did that, but did I? We're going to do some statistics to prove that out. So
In the prior year, how many patients died?
Yeah, this is just saying, hey, all we know from this
Because
is
you had 550 that died the previous year, and they had COVID, this means numbers
This could, yeah, we were just saying, hey, we're just looking, is there a statistical difference between men and women? Could be men and women have a higher death rate. Anyway, to your point, right? So we don't know. But what we do know is, for this exercise, is we're going to say, okay, we know the patient got COVID, and we know which ones died. So we have basically two combinations, right? Live to die, and then what we have a 2x2 contingency table. So we'll walk you through how we set that up. All right. So chi-squared, is one been exposed to chi-squared? Okay. What chi-squared? So there's two basic ways, two types of data in our world. So you have count data. That could be male, female, placebo, with drug, without drug, political party affiliation, Democrat, independent, don't know. And then so that's groups. So you say, okay, I'm going to take a sampling of the population, I'm putting in groups. And I also want to say, let's take that population, say, this group had the drug, this group did. So chi-squared is very popular in the healthcare world. Where I came from the GE, we use more measurement data, so you can measure with a yardstick, a pressure gauge, times, variable data, use other statistical tools like t-tests. You're looking at graphs that compare variation and so on. But we're just going to use chi-squared on this for this example here. And I'll create a spreadsheet, and I'll reveal each of the elements to kind of break down the chi-squared simply. If you want a copy of this, at the end, I'll share with you my email address. Shoot me a line, I'll be happy to send it back to you. You can plug in your data. And as a matter of fact, I sit on a consortium of other hospitals, and I gave some of this presentation down, and they started to use this in their own group, which is really gratifying for me to see people actually embrace statistics. I came to statistics kicking and screaming. I hated it. So now that you kind of get with it, you're like, I can actually use this. So the first thing that we want to do is gather the data. You can see what we did there. We put the men, women, died, and survived. This is just the code. Okay, to your point, we didn't look before, we didn't look after. We just took a snapshot, and that's a pretty high. That's in thousands. So we're talking, millions of people, right? And then there's a statistical test method that you want to say, what would we expected failures to be? And these are formulas in there. It's embedded in the spreadsheet. I won't go through the math on that. But you've got two situations: what you observed and what you expected. And if you have those two tables, see in blue and pink there. You also want to say, okay, I'm going to do a statistical test, and I want to establish a threshold. The odds of me being wrong. So I want to be 95% confident in my assessment. And if you're 95% confident, I don't get too detailed. I am willing to accept the 5% that it's going to be wrong. So if I want to be 99% confident, what would be my p-value of being wrong? 0.01, right? 1%. You see how that works? So we use this way. So if it's less than 0.05, then we can accept that there's a difference. Okay? If it's greater than 0.05, it means that we can't see a difference in this application, right? So if my calculated value from this analysis was 0.06, would I say there's a difference, or would I say there's not? I can't say there's a difference. We don't. If it's 0.05. No difference, right? If it was 0.03, what would it be? You said that there's a statistically significant difference, right? So one of the things I like about using Excel, I use statistical software packages, but Excel has lots of those baked in already. So that formula there, you use that chi-square test and grab those two ranges and give you a p-value, the calculator. And so here's what we came up with. So if the score was 0.015, so would you say there's a statistically significant difference or not? Yeah, based upon this data, you get 7. So there seems to be a difference between, we don't know why, but it seems to be some kind of evidence. If you're a man, you can say you're more likely to die with this sample based upon this statistical sample. It's a really large sample. We're talking, well, this is 30, that's 30 million people. So this is it's a very, very large number. Okay. Okay, so again, I'll just kind of restate what I talked about earlier. You've got the formula there. There's two ways to do it. Take that range, that's D8 to E9. You take another common, D5 to E16, and then get enter or whatever it is, you get a score to calculate through that. So you just did a chi-square. How cool is that? You look smart. You look smart, a lot smarter than you came in. So that's awesome. So this is our methodology for plan, do, check, act. So the first thing we did was we did a baseline. our bed PM looked like in 2019. Then we looked at it, we established a hypothesis, and we asked ourselves, do PMs actually impact our corrective maintenance or repairs in any way? We don't know. We're going to set that up. And then we analyzed over the years. We looked at 2019, 2020, and then fast forward to this last year and looked at what the analysis showed us. And the results were kind of slower. I didn't see a difference, okay, before or after. All right. Don't know why. We'll just see it. Celine was asking about our CAPA. So the nice thing about CAPAs is they just start with putting the question out there, right? You don't come up with the answer and just say, it's just kind of like raise my hand, an issue here, let's go ahead and document. So that's what we've done here. And then as the process wears through, we try to look for a short-term solution first. And if we're not seeing a systemic problem, then we just say we can close it out at that point. We might monitor it, but we also just want to make sure there's a methodology behind it. Okay? And again, we're in the improve phase, and so we're asking ourselves, can we use statistics to validate PM change? All right, SBAR. Anyone familiar with SBAR? It's a great tool. This is great. Yeah, this is what the nursing staff and the medical staff uses all the time. So we talk about the situation. So we were past due. Background, beginning in 2020, we started to change our OEM schedule to an AEM schedule. And then after COVID, we started to see some restriction in access. So that was the assessment, right? And then the recommendation was that we're going to transition to repairs needed for to evaluate that. So that's the SBAR process. Nice summary of where you are. Okay. Yes, sir.
So, so you're going from OEM to repair. Are you doing this on all the equipment?
No, just the Versa Care beds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you compared before COVID, so your inventory, I guess with the beds, maybe it hasn't changed much, but your inventory is really fluid, it changes from, right?
Yeah. So what you could do though, if your inventory does change, and you're taking a snapshot within a year. So let's say that we bought, 10,000. Yeah. You want to make sure you compare your data set there. Yeah. So we were pretty careful in saying we had a fixed number of beds before and a fixed number of beds after. You're right, because it could dilute it, right? You bought more beds and they're brand new.
Yeah.
Then
this some
right. Yeah. And we also looked in our data to make sure that there were some things that were repairs that really weren't broke repairs that were miscoded. So we kind of cleaned the data a little, make sure that we're true to saying these were things that would have been prevented possibly. Yeah. So you have to look at your data and say, just, don't put everything in there. You have to do a little bit selective on it. So yeah, this was very narrow. This was just on the Versa Care beds, which is, we have about 1,000 of them in the system, so it's not insignificant. So it was a major, group of beds to look at across 5 or 6 hospitals. Great question. So this is the timelines. Let's talk about. We were using OEMs, and then we transitioned to an AEM, and really didn't see much of a difference in those years either. And we looked at a period of time, about 6 months of data, the same 6 months, so we did work bias by seasonality, and we wanted to see if there was a difference. So this is this graph that shows our transition from an OEM to an AEM, and then in 2022 we began using the RANs, but we still had some of the types of the OEM schedules in blue there. All right. So is anyone familiar with the 7 wastes from the toilet production system? Have you all seen this acronym before? This is really great. This is I tried to remember all the 7 wastes, and I couldn't get past the first 2. But I saw this in a medical journal, and I really like it. So it goes over downtime, and that's the title of the switch station. Let's save time and money. So can everyone agree that any waste of time is fair game? And look at all the wastes that were present in our current state. We had past due PMs. We had overproduction. We had PMs and CMs. We had waiting on the beds. We're literally waiting to get in the room. Not using talent. We're starting to get our frontline staff educated in these tools. It's wonderful to see them take to it. Transportation, difficult to move the beds around. Inventory and used parts laying everywhere. Motion, documenting PMs. How many waste time? I think it's value added to document. I couldn't find it. Could not locate it. Found and used. What? So there's a lot of extra motion that we do documenting those kinds of performances. And then, extra processing, do the PMs actually add value or not? In this particular case, we kind of weren't sure. Okay, so that's the downtime. Yes, sir. Someone, any question, comment? No, just, I'm like a auctioneer. You make a movement, I'm gonna get it sold, right? Okay, sorry about that. This is to answer Salim's question. So we were very narrow in the beds that we're looking at. We also pulled the data for all the hospitals except Norton Hospital downtown. And there was a special situation going on there. We looked at the data, it's like something didn't make sense there. There were some performance issues and actually the new staff on board now. So we chose to take that particular set out and kind of watch them and see what's going to happen over time. And it turns out it's a good move. But we want to look at the clean data.
How did you demonstrate those exclusions? Do you write a waiver for that? And so that, if somebody comes in and questions your rationale,
Yeah.
You can speak to those discrepancies.
Yeah, one of the things you should do with statistics is called special cause variations. So you have normal variations within some band. And when you have something that goes like this and then back down, you say that's not the system. That's something strange. And so that's what happened. Because that's the first thing that is like when I put it all together, they look like all, and I was able to isolate that one hospital. And I did a little deep dive. So if something happened there, we get some issues with people putting some errors in the system, take care of that. So I would say take that out of the system, see, and then see what the data looks like. So that's why I love using Excel. These are called, use slicers. They're really cool ways to do the data slicing instead of what works. Because you can deselect it, you can see the data change in real time, and make sure that they're really smart. It's really cool. Okay, so now we're in the control phase because we've already made a change. We want to validate. So that's kind of what we're trying to do right now. Does anyone see a difference between those two groups? Significant difference? No, you're shaking your no. I would hope it's, yeah, I don't really, even the seasonality, look at that. They're like right on top of each other. I really can't distinguish between one group and the other. So this is, the blue is 2019 before we made a change, and then the red, or orange, I guess, is 2022. And so a lot of times you can show the data graphically. Graphical statistics kind of show, makes it fundamental in the last this real quickly. I don't see a trend at all. Looks like it's the same data.
But did that data kind of follow your patient census? Those higher numbers?
I guess. I know that we have certain months a year that we do PMs. I don't know. These are the repairs. You know what? It makes a lot of sense because around Christmas time, we don't do much of that at all. So maybe this is sort of a backlog. And these are repair PMs. I'm sorry, repair work orders. Okay. Yeah, that is good. That actually would help you with standard equipment. You knew that it looks like it's almost double in those months, doesn't it? It looks like it's an interesting trend, isn't it? All right, so we talked a little bit about how we set this up. We won't go through too much details, but bottom line, you make this contingency table, you create a hypothesis, you establish your comfort zone, how confident you want to be in your assessment, and then you use statistics like Excel to come up with an actual p-value to compare that to your target. So there's a little nerd in there, and you have to interpret this. All right, so these are the bed PMs. I'm sorry, these were before PM, before we made a change. You can see what we did here. This is the OEM schedule for 19, and this is the repairs needed. And so we had a number of beds repaired those years for that year, and a number of beds that repaired that year, and the beds that weren't. And so to your point, this is the total population. So if you add these two together, that's the total of beds versus your beds in the system. Okay. All right. So what we found out is our p-value is 0.3. So is that greater than 0.05? It is much greater, right? So we said, no, this is not. We feel comfortable from the risk standpoint to make this change. So we can also use that to close out the capital. All right. All right. Again, this is in the spreadsheet that I created, and we create a graph like this. The graph doesn't even look like this big difference. It almost looks like they're the same company.
So you close out the cap because you have a mediated issue. Question for you is, do you have to go to the environment here and get there?
No, and I wish, Yes, the question was, do we go to Department of Care to make this change? And we don't really do that. We present our performance data at a very high level, and as long as things are kind of within the normal range of PMs completed, that's the only measure they would care about. I wish we did have a formalized change control process like that. I know when I was at GE, you couldn't change the screw unless it went through everyone, sales and sign off and so on.
Yeah, so one more question.
Yeah.
Did you have to write a policy for this process? Did you do this?
We have a policy well, we do have a,
Because you're deviating from the
Yes.
original manufacturer.
Yeah.
Did you like have to write a policy because you're not going to EOC, so it's kind of you're on your own, like you're owning the risk.
Yeah.
You're taking the risk away from the manufacturer by not owning the destruction, and then you're owning the risk.
Right. We owned it because we did the analysis of the change and the impact of it. But as part of our ISO process, we had a change control document, so we get another form we fill out. So we say, why are you making this change? Because the problems will be encountered here. How can we say that can we sign off on the process change? And if there's a document or policy needs to change, we need to show that you changed the policy as well. So yeah, it has to close full circle. So I didn't go through that in this example. But yeah, the flow of documents are like this. Non-conformity, NC, there's a form for that. We're trying to make it be a one form or a smart form. Then if it's required, then we do a CAPA. And then if the CAPA requires any kind of documentation change or training, which it typically does, then we want to create a change control form, and that goes to the same internal leadership to sign off on it. So those are the three levels of
So
documentation.
in your environmental criteria, you probably have a protocol that stipulates that level, you know, that you follow that policy, that's how you're changing.
Yes.
So they're basically signing off on it without.
Right, they're saying, you know, you've got your own processes, and as long as you've got that, you can demonstrate that you're following the process, change control process. We don't need to second guess you, and that's kind of the way.
Yeah, well, here's the expert.
We don't, and the REOC doesn't really do, I'm not even aware. Most of their meetings, we have run sort of stance checks, or maybe, hey, heads up, hey, we're gonna do something. Yeah,
That's where you report your compliance.
right.
So in the joint commission, you guys are joint commission or?
D&B,
And
Yeah.
so it might be different.
yeah,
When joint commission comes in, they want to see your compliance,
yes.
and that goes to the EOC. That's
Oh, okay, yeah, so
that's
D&B,
why.
and then I'll talk about this before, we made the change at Norton to go from joint commission to D&B, and they're an ISO 9001 certified company, so we aligned our processes with theirs.
That makes sense.
So when they come to look at Norton Healthcare across the entire enterprise, 18,000 employees, they come to our shop and they see that certification on our doors, and they sort of go, okay, we know it's a higher standard, so they understand how that fits together, right? It's an umbrella clause.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Well, that's really good. Yes, sir.
So you made a change from the OEM to brand failure. What if you found out that it was statistically significant difference? So you would have to revert back.
Yeah, we have to change our scope.
Yeah, my question is, so you made a change and then you waited some time to see, the impact of this change, right? And this could have caused, incidents, all kinds of, bad stuff.
Yeah.
So my question is, how long are you willing to wait before doing this analysis and to, reassure everybody that what you've done is not causing increased risk?
Yeah, that's why I like the class square, because that tells you the relative magnitude of the problem. So if we had some statistic or increase over repair across the enterprise, that we said there's something that we clearly missed here. But the way we did the analysis, we looked at all the hospitals and saw patterns that looked alike, except for the hospitals. So that's how you would do that. When you have 1,000 parts, and you have, I don't know what the number would be, but there'd be, have to be greater than 50% where you see some statistical significant change in that. But yeah, we're monitoring that. We look at our repair rates, we look at our operations. So yeah.
But did you start monitoring like after months?
Yeah, we look back, we were kind of surprised it wasn't a great increase. So we said, oh, let's come back next month. So we let it go for a few months before we did a full blown, longer period of time. I'm sorry, is that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, this was triggered by the situation where you were not, able to access the bed, so you were like forced to do this.
Right.
Now my question is, how can you do it proactively and convince your colleagues and hospitals that, all right, I want to go rent a failure, but I can hesitate until I actually.
Yeah, and I guess to do this again, we would say, hey, we have this idea, we did the risk analysis. I would say, show me your risk analysis and say, I'm gonna make this change, and here's why I think it's a safe bet. But if I saw something that, well, let's say we're gonna change the way we do MRIs, I would say, I can't see the waves, I can't smell them, and you're gonna decide. I want to see this analysis on that. So I'm kind of like the master black before we make changes, I like to say, before you do this, let's talk about your test plan with that data you have, see if we can make this more scientific and not hope for the best. In the back, yes, sir.
Do y'all have any other processes in the hospital for climate chemistry like that, like right movement or something that you see?
Yeah.
Did you see any spike in what it all really
We do rounding, we record, so in the EOC, we report out two numbers, our percent completion of PMs and the percent, 5%, and 35%. Couldn't allocate, so we do rounding and say, hey, we're not only trying to do maintenance, but if we can't get it, we want to document which devices we can't find and work with staff. Those are the two times.
Are they also reporting the number of devices spent on that?
That's a little we find, but not okay, it's true rounding. Yeah. So that's a, yeah. All right, that was a great question. I really appreciate it. Makes my job a whole lot easier. Okay, so this is what we found out. And this is the result. So there's just two ways to show the same information. I like line charts. The blue is the corrective maintenance repairs. It looks pretty flat. I don't see it trend up or down before or after. You don't see that? So we validated the repairs needed, didn't create a great problem, and it was the right thing to do for us. We're not going to go do this on every device. This just seemed to make sense based upon the risk. I can't stress enough. If you do that risk analysis first, it says, okay, we're doing a smart analysis here. We're not exposing ourselves or patients or hospitals something that we would regret later. So that's kind of what the results look like. All right. All right. So what would you use extra capacity? This is the payoff. This is for those that haven't done self-leading or done FTE calculations. This is a real simplified way that we estimate how many staff we saved or how much time we saved. And what you do is you take the total bed PM time, your PM, an average time, multiply that time the number of beds. Makes sense, right? If you have takes 3 hours, you have 1,000 beds and 3,000 hours, right? And then you divide that by this is the trickier part, and I think you should take note of this, is the total available time per PM. This is where, in my lean background, we sort of got to re-educate on this. You've got to take 8 hours, and you have to subtract out a lot of time, right? You got to subtract out what? Breaks, lunch, an hour. How about subtracting out meeting time? That's another hour a day. And then you also have to subtract out a per rate for vacation, don't you? So when you do all that, you don't have 2,000 hours, 28, whatever that works out to be, and you have some number much less than that, right? So the result of that is you're going to need more people, right? Because as time shrinks, you need more staff. Yes, sir.
So something that I analyzed pretty extensively on the industry average is about 1,000 annual device hours per technician.
That's a good number. That's actually a really good number. Yeah. I would say I probably trust that more than what I came up with. That was a little bit on the more optimistic side, yes. So I think I had 1,350, but I'll use 1,000 probably about right, really good math, because most people in our staff, let's say half our staff has a lot more vacation than 4 weeks. I think I was using 4 weeks, and that's a 8/10 of an hour per day, something like that. So that's what we did to estimate what we would have saved in this. Let's use some real numbers here. We had 3 hours of bed. And that's a range. So I looked at data that said you could do a bed PM in 2 to 4 hours. So I went right for the middle. I said 3. You could say 2. It's not going to change the outcome that much. So the nice thing about this is you can play around with it. So if you take 3 hours times 1,000 beds divided by 1,352, pretty granular there. I could use Al's number. What would that do to the number of staff? it jumps it up, right? Actually makes the math a lot easier. So 3 times 1,000 divided by 1,000 is 3. Okay? And as it turns out, I know when I was at GE, whenever we did this calculation, they would say, I need 2.2 linemen, and they say, you need 3. I said, what? So you can't get a 2/10 of a person, you have to round up. So either way, hey, Al, we got the same answer, right? So that's what we did. What kind of things would you do with the extra time?
Process improvement.
Process improvement, absolutely. So I asked the VETAC the other day, who's on a process improvement team that I'll share in the afternoon session. I'm so proud of this. So he has more time to do that kind of work. As a matter of fact, if you're getting a chance to go to the Toyota plant in Georgetown, Kentucky, they actually have free tours. Come to see the horse park, the definitely see Toyota. They believe that it's better to have every person on the line in the corporation do 1 hour continuous improvement per day and one person for 100%. So I really buy into that methodology and support that wholeheartedly. So yeah, that's one of the things that you could do with that. All right, I have some extra. Do I have extra time or am I overtime? How am I doing? I have 3 minutes left. You want to see the bonus slide or not?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So actually, let's talk about this. What we take back. Hopefully, you can understand that NCs are opportunities for improvement. That's the positive spin on it. It's not a bad thing. Lean Six Sigma approach. Again, I gave you some of the tools today, but the more important thing is to follow a methodology. Define it, measure, analyze, improve, put control it. Make sure that what you did stays fixed. Talk about how we do PM risk analysis and use some statistical tools where they make sense. And then you can use that in this case to facilitate and calculate the FTE savings. So I thank you. If you want to take a snap of that, again, this is recorded and you can get this. But if you have other questions for me, my personal email is there. And I say that because of our cyber attack, sometimes emails to the Norton Healthcare get flagged and don't make it to me. So don't be affected. That's just what's happening. And myself up there as well. And I really appreciate it. You try to help me, and that's good. It's amazing. It really makes a great presentation for us. And I think the last slide I have here is this. So feel free to snap of that. Please do that and let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what I can do to make it better. This is my 10th presentation, and I really listen to your feedback and appreciate your feedback. This is all about raising the overall score for the HTM code in general.
This is your strength. You've spent a lot of years doing this. How do we operationalize this for an average household that doesn't have these resources to make a difference? I think that's the question.